students of Cal State Fullerton. I'm really glad to be here. I'm pleased and proud to be here. I can't wait to find out who the distinguished speaker is. I say that sort of only tongue-in-cheek because the only thing that makes me distinguished is that I'm lucky enough to have joined the Titan family and become a member of the Fullerton community. That and my hairline, that makes me distinguished too. It's great to be here in the library, the Fullerton Library. I love libraries. I've always loved libraries. I've had a little bit of a problem my whole life with libraries because I keep getting shushed all the time when I'm in a library. You know, I'm the guy that he's reading Mary Shelley and he screams out loud at the scary parts, or you know, laughing at Mark Twain, or maybe weeping and blowing my nose for Steinbeck, or cheering in Hemingway. That, you know, and getting shushed all the time. So a lot of librarians like to tell me to be quiet. So you can imagine I was a little bit surprised when I was asked to come to the library and actually talk. But I was very happy and pleased to do that. I'm glad to be here. Libraries are my happy place. They're the intellectual and cultural hub of a community, which is an amazing thing. I love books, I love literature. And they're the places for the genesis of innovation. Often the birthplace for a community of activism, where community action takes place or gets started. And the little known fact that you might know is that our library at Cal State Fullerton is the tallest building at Cal State Fullerton. Right, Vince? No. You know why it's the tallest building? I already used this joke before, but because it has the most stories. So enough of the corny jokes. I imagine part of the reason that I'm here now is I've actually got to be named as the permanent president at Cal State Fullerton. Not that anything is really permanent in life, but I will tell you it is a true blessing and a bit liberating to no longer be the interim and wondering how long I'll be in the position and have people ask me, are you going to apply and what's going to happen? I get to be here, so if you see this silly grin on my face, that's because I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have been able to get this job. How lucky? Well, I'll explain to you with an analogy that I used in a letter that I wrote to campus. I said, think about the things that you love best in the world, the things that you like best in the world. For me, one of those is music. I love music, and specifically I love harmony. I don't care if it's the Rolling Stones or Beethoven or Crosby, Stills, Nash or Dino. I love listening to music, and it takes me to a special place. I also love pizza. Pizza is really good. Probably my favorite thing in the world is holding my grandson. And I don't even have to explain why on that one, right? That makes sense. So if you ask me what's so great about being at Cal State Fullerton, it's like, for me, listening to music, eating pizza, and holding my grandson all at the same time. It is a really, really special thing for me. It takes me to a place where I feel I've been looking for all my life. You know, I told this story to a young woman who was asking me, how do you get a job like this? And I told her that story. I said, this is the job I've been looking for all my life. I feel like I've been preparing for this job for my entire life with all the things that I've been doing. And she said, geez, Fram, how do you get a job like that? And I said, you've got to be lucky. I feel very, very lucky and blessed. Lucky to have a chance to put my shoulder to the wheel with the rest of folks at Cal State Fullerton and with the Fullerton community for what I think is one of the most transformative institutions in the country. The things that we do to change people's lives are incredible, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Lucky to join our students and our educators and our university partners and staff in constantly, as we like to say, reaching higher, trying to get better, and move our institution forward and therefore assure student success. lucky to be welcomed into the city of Fullerton. Julie and I are now Fullertonians. You know, yeah. When we thought about moving down here, we lived in Palos Verdes for more than 30 years as a family. We left everything there. We left our families, we left our friends, we left our church, and we weren't sure what it was going to be like. And we kept telling ourselves, well, it's only going to be for 18 months, so we don't have to worry about it. But it didn't take very long at all for us to feel at home here in this city. It's an amazing place, as you know, which is why you live here. And you know that it's not just the university, it's the community around it that makes it an amazing place. So I feel like I have the greatest job in the world. I wouldn't even tell you, it's not even really a job, it's more of a mission or a calling. It's 24/7, which is absolutely right, as it should be, but I don't mind that at all. And so I will forever think of myself as very, very lucky and blessed to get this job. One might ask, why in the heck would you want a job like this? What was it that made you think that this would be something that you might want to do? I'm not sure that I would have been able to answer that question 15 months ago if you asked me, would you like to be a college president? But in the last 15 months, I've had the chance to interact with amazing faculty and staff and students, talk with highly committed alumni and parents, emeriti and community leaders, to work with a wonderful cabinet of amazing people, and immerse myself in Cal State Fullerton and in the city of Fullerton. And in doing so, I think I learned the why of why I wanted this job, and why I think, at the risk of sounding a little bit too dramatic, I believe my life has actually been building up to being able to do this for my entire life. As you know, Cal State Fullerton is reflective of our Fullerton community. That means it's full of diversity, full of inclusiveness. It's reflective and resonates with me because of that. My dad is an orphan from the streets of India. He literally lived on the streets of India when he was a little kid, and he stowed away on a freighter when he was 14 years old. And he was blessed enough, lucky enough, that the crewman basically allowed him to stay. And he went from stowaway to captain over the course of the next 2 decades in the British Merchant Marines. He was saved and nourished and educated by a crew that cared about him, that saw his potential, that saw who he could be, and wanted to lift him up and be part of raising up someone who I think as an amazing man. So I'm the first generation immigrant. We came to the United States in 1966, actually sailed across on the Queen Mary when the Queen Mary was still a commercial vessel. We took the last commercial voyage across, never knowing that I would be living in the shadow of the Queen Mary. I'm also the product of, or the child of interracial marriage, a mixed marriage. My dad is a brown guy and my mom's a redheaded Swede from Sweden. And that probably doesn't sound very controversial, and it's not controversial today, thank goodness. But it was controversial in 1966 when we moved here. And so I got just a little bit of an inkling of what it's like to be different or to be looked at differently. And I think that helped inform who I was. I grew up on that ship for the first 6 years of my life, traveling around the world, visiting different cultures, hearing different languages, being exposed to different lifestyles and religions and everything else, and that informed me and I think helped prepare me as well for the wonderful diversity that is in Fullerton and at Cal State Fullerton. So I'm a first generation college student. My grandfather, my mom's side, was a custodian, a janitor at a community college, El Camino Community College. And so my first exposure to a college campus was going to work with Grandpa. Are you going to try to fix this? Is that what you're doing? I love that. I love that. And so that's where I learned plumbing and how to fix a leaky faucet, but it's also where I learned the power of education. And it was very clear in my house growing up, even though neither one of my parents had gone to college, that I was going to college. The question wasn't where, if you're going, but where are you going? The question wasn't, are you going to study, but what are you going to study? And being from first generation, in my house, you were either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And my parents saw my math grades and they said, lawyer. So I remember going off in high school I was a water polo player, and so I applied to 2 schools. USC as my safety school, my backup school, back in those days, and to UC Santa Barbara because they just won the NCAA title in water polo. And I wanted to play water polo. And I got a chance to go play water polo at UCSB, and that's where I went. And I remember going off to school, and my parents had never been to a university campus, I don't think. I'm not sure of that, but I don't think they ever had. And as we got closer, driving up to UC Santa Barbara, I could feel the tension as we were going to move in to the dorms. And I tease them and I say, what happened is they slowed down and pushed me out the door because they weren't sure what to do because they hadn't been to college. And as I started at UC Santa Barbara, where I met the love of my life, Jules, I too wasn't sure whether I belonged there. I felt a little bit like a poser. Wasn't sure as a first generation student how to navigate college. I didn't have anybody to talk to ask what college was about and how it worked. But my life is the direct result of public education. At UCSB and then at UC Hastings when I went to law school, I found community. I found people that believed in things that I believed in: access, equality, social justice, opportunity. So my roots go deep into the idea of transformative education, the whole purpose and reason for education, to transform lives and transform families. It's something I've worked on for a long time, my entire life. I remember when I was going off to law school, I had spent a summer in Washington, D.C. working on Capitol Hill as an intern between my junior and senior year. And I was convinced I wanted to run for president, and I wanted to live in Washington, and that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I knew I wanted to go to Georgetown to go to law school, because that was the place to go. And so I applied to Georgetown and got in, and was very excited to go. And I came downstairs one day, and I heard my parents talking at the kitchen table. And my dad was saying, well, I'm going to sell the car. And my mom said, well, how are you going to get to work? He said, I don't know, I'll find a way. And I realized that they were talking about how they were going to pay for law school for me. How the heck they were going to pay for Georgetown, which back then, 1982, was about $30,000 a year, a lot of money. Now it's 3 times that. But I had gotten in to UC Hastings as well, which was actually ranked higher up in San Francisco. And I walked in and and it was $800 a year to go to school. And I walked in and I told my folks, I'm going to go to Hastings. And they literally, I could see them melt. They were so relieved. And it was the best thing I ever did, because if I had gone off to Georgetown, I don't know whether Julie and I would have, she went to San Francisco with me, and the rest is history, right?
You went to San Francisco.
I went to San Francisco with her. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I went to law school with the idea that I was going to change the world. That's why young people go to law school. I literally am a child of the 60s. I grew up in 1960, and I grew up with parents who were active politically. My heroes still today are Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. They are my role models for so much of my life and what I've done and what I want to do, the values that I have. So I believed that if you went to law school and you equipped yourself, you could make change. And I had experienced that in Washington and knew that that could be done. My grandmother wanted me to be a lawyer too. I remember I told my grandma I was going to law school, and she said, "Thank goodness. Would you hurry up and get through law school? Your grandfather's driving me crazy and I need a divorce. I need a lawyer to help me get a divorce." I think she was only half kidding. And I remember when I graduated from law school and I was going to work, I was truly blessed to be able to go to work at one of the best law firms in the country, O'Melveny and Myers. It is a national firm. Warren Christopher was the head of the firm and was a mentor to me, and I had a chance to go and work for Warren Christopher, and I was so excited. And I went to my grandmother and I said, "Grandma, I got my job." And she said, "That's great." I said, "I'm going to work at O'Melveny and Myers." She said, "Oh, that's great. I see their commercials on TV all the time." I said, "No, Grandma, that's Jacoby and Myers." And she said, "Well, I'm sure O'Melveny's a good firm too." But I went to work at this law firm with bright-eyed and great ideas of how we were going to work to change the world. I represented colleges and universities and school districts. I represented LA Unified for about 15 years. I worked, this is a big conservative law firm, quite frankly, and I worked to increase racial diversity and gender diversity at the law firm, and I became very successful there. I am proud to say. I was financially successful and financially secure beyond anything that I had ever dreamed would happen. I was at the top of my game in the legal profession. I was in leadership in the firm, leadership in the bar, but something was missing. I did this for 30 years, and it is intellectually challenging and engaging. If you think about this, when you're a lawyer at that kind of a firm, you get paid to think, which is a wonderful thing. People pay you by the hour to go in your office, close the door, and think. I can't think of something a greater privilege than that. So it was heady stuff. I represented Fortune 50 companies, was in the C-suite with the CEOs of major corporations. But again, there was still something missing. I was working hard. It was intellectually challenging. It was heady and fun. I was a courtroom litigator, so I loved to go into the courtroom and half drama, half law. You got to perform as well as make sure that you were prepared with the law. But what was missing was that idea of why I went to law school, which was to make the world a better place, to find a way to make a difference for people. To provide opportunity to get, that's what I had thought I was going to law school for. And I read a book that I recommend to anybody. Julie's heard me say this too many times. It's called Halftime by a guy named Bob Buford. And in that, Bob is he just passed away, but he was he had a private investment firm down in Arkansas. And he made his fortune, a big fortune, much bigger than I ever did. And he then, at 50, he was looking at it and saying, what do I do now? Now that I've spent all this time building and doing all this, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to change that, channel that into making a difference and making change? And he wrote a book. He sold his private equity firm, and he focused on his passion, which happened to be education, and told his story about how he did that. And there are actually half-timers all around the world now who've read the book and try to take another look at their life at that stage to see what they might want to do. And he caused me to do that. And it was a time where I decided, I told my partners, I'm done. and they all looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. Wait a minute, you're at the top of your game, what is it? We'll give you more money. I said, I don't need any more money. I don't want any more money. I've got what I need. You don't have to work as hard. I said, that's not what it is. I just need to find some kind of purpose to actually make things better. Julie and I have a nonprofit in Rwanda, which some of you might know. And so I thought that was what it was going to be. I came home and told Julie, we're moving to Rwanda. And we still will someday. But we have a deaf school and a preschool in Rwanda. We have 3 sewing cooperatives. We have an art program, education programs, and it's a passion for us. We love it. And that's what I thought we were going to do. And then I got a call from the CSU, from the chancellor, saying, why don't you come help us with the Cal State University system? And I said, I don't want to do that. You're looking for a general counsel. I'm running away from being a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. And he said, well, why don't you be executive vice chancellor and general counsel, and we're going to work on access. We're going to work on graduation rates. We're going to work on funding from Sacramento and from Washington. We're going to work on curriculum. And this is a huge institution, 23 campuses, 485,000 students, biggest university in the country, I think maybe even in the world. And he said, you want to make change? You want to make a difference in people's lives? I'm giving you that opportunity. When you're done here, you can go to Rwanda, but why don't you try this first? And then as I love to tell, if Tim was here, he'd be laughing because he knows what I'm going to say next. Then he said to me, look, you've been sucking it out of California for 30 years. It's time for you to give back to California. So he had me. And I went to work at the CSU, and it was transformational for me. It literally was the best job I ever had. I got to work on all the things that he said, access and education policy and student success. But there was still something missing. I loved working for the students that I saw in myself in them. I saw that's where I was, and I love the purpose. But Diana knows there's no students in Long Beach at the chancellor's office. Now, if you walk on that campus, when you take one step onto the campus, you know how you feel. You feel hope, you feel vibrancy, you feel potential, future. It's exciting to be on a college campus. And that's part of being in higher education. And that part was missing. That is a motivating thing that helps you to understand where you need to go and what you want to do. And so I told the chancellor I would give him 5 years working as the general counsel and executive vice chancellor. And after about 4 years, being a good corporate citizen, I had found my successor and groomed him to take the job. And I went to the chancellor and I said, you know, it's getting there. And I think that this guy, Andy Jones, will do a great job. And so let's start talking about transition. And he said, yeah, I think Andy's great. He can do the job. And I said, yeah, okay, so, you know, I told you I'd give you 5 years. He goes, oh, well, we don't have to wait that long. I think Andy could do the job right now. I'm thinking, wow. He said, and I want you to go down to Cal State Fullerton and take over. Millie just announced that she's going to go to Washington, D.C. to head up a national organization. And would you consider going down there? It's not something that I had ever thought I would have a chance to do. Now, I would not be truthful with you if I hadn't said it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I had been looking over this fence at that job for all 4 years, because as the general counsel, I worked with all 23 campuses. I worked with all 23 presidents. And since I was their lawyer, their consigliere, I had a confidential relationship with them. They told me everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, because they knew I had to keep it quiet. So Julie and I had a chance to go to every campus, all 23 campuses, and spend time there and understand the differences and the similarities. And it was a wonderful experience. And so I had said, boy, that job as a university president, if I was going to come back, anything other than my dog, I'm going to come back as a university president. And so I had thought about it, but I never thought I'd have a chance to do it. But lo and behold, he gave me that chance. And when Tim asked us if we wanted to come down to Fullerton and do this job, he said, you can live in Palos Verdes and commute down and do the job, and it's only for 18 months. And I said, Tim, no thank you. If we're going to do that, we want to be all in. We want to live in Fullerton. We want to be part of the community. We want to understand what that community is about, and how it interacts with the university. We want to be a part of the university community, but also of the Fullerton community. So if that's okay, if we can go down there and live and be part of the community and be there 24/7, we're all in. He said, I hoped you would say that. And so that's what we did 18 months or 15 months ago. It's been an amazing opportunity. And just as I mentioned, I feel like Mike Myers, it completes me, right? It's a great job. It allows me to use all those life skills that I have been honing my whole life. Leadership, empathy, strategy, ethics, human resources, diversity and inclusion, education, management, all those things, and then apply them to something that I'm passionate about, which is education and lifting up communities and making communities better. When did I know this was the chance of a lifetime? When did I know that this was something that I definitely wanted to do, that I just didn't want to do for 18 months, that I wanted to do on an ongoing basis? Well, there were a couple of turning points that shared that with me. Early on, I think we'd been on campus for a month or two. I was wandering around campus, which I love to do. It's really important to walk on campus and be on campus and talk to people. And I came up, someone told me to go upstairs to the second floor of the College of the Arts Student Success Center. And I went up there and I met some students and I talked to one, and he was majoring in voice. And I thought, man, that's amazing. And he said, yeah, I'm in the University Singers, which is one of our choral groups. And I said, oh, I'd love to hear you. And he said, well, we're going on tour next week up to Northern California. And I said, well, are you going to do any rehearsals before? And he said, yeah. So I said, well, tell me where the rehearsal's going to be and I'll come see you. He said, I'll text you. And I went about my business and he texted me where the rehearsals were and I couldn't get to any of them. And I was so disappointed. And so I had to go to a meeting, and I went to a meeting. I was actually meeting with the pastor for Christ Our Redeemer Church and a member of our foundation board, Martha Daniels, having a great conversation with them. And I was telling them, and I was missing the chance to hear these singers. And there's a knock on my door in my office, and they say, University Singers are here. And I said, well, where are they? They said, they're in the conference room. I said, bring them in. And all these kids kind of came into my office, and they filled my office. Pastor Mark and Martha and Julie and I were all there, and they sang songs for us. And they sang spirituals. This was part of what they were planning for their performance. And I will tell you, we were visibly moved by the first one. By the second one, we were all crying. By the third one, all the kids were crying too.
There were 68.
68 kids.
There wasn't a molecule of oxygen left in the room there.
It was an incredible experience. And you can see it on YouTube. We actually put it on YouTube if you ever want a chance to see it. It doesn't do it the justice that it was, but I'm telling you, it was amazing. And Pastor Whitlock, Mark, got up after and he said to our students, he said, I grew up in the AME church. I've been singing those songs for my entire life. I sang when I was a kid. I sang when I was in seminary. We still sing them every day at Core, and I've never heard them sung better. And This is what it's all about. That was one of the transformative moments for me. And I said, this is pretty cool. I think I could do this. And then it was probably a couple months later, well, maybe 6 months later, it was move-in day, and all our students were moving in to the campus. Now, you may or may not know, but about 60% of our students every year are first generation in their family to go to college. I will tell you, you can tell the first gen kids that are moving in because they have twice as much stuff as anybody else. And they have mom and dad and brother and sister, and they're moving it all in, and they're everywhere. And it is a zoo. And I had scheduled, quote unquote, about 45 minutes to go to meet people at move-in day. I thought that would be a good thing for me to do, show the flag. After about 45 minutes, I told Danielle, clear my calendar, I'm not leaving. This is too good. And I spent time talking to parents and talking to kids that were so excited to begin their college career. And it was really fun and engaging and exciting. But I will tell you, that wasn't the impactful part of it for me. That was really a good part, but it wasn't the impactful part. The impactful part was I saw there was a family, and the mom was sitting on a bench, and dad was standing up, and the son was standing next to dad. And they were a Latino family, and I walked up, and mom is crying. And I sit down next to her, and I put my arm around her, and I said, don't worry, we'll take care of her. This will be a great place for him. I know he's your treasure, but he's going to be our treasure too. It's going to be wonderful. And she sort of looked at me, and I didn't have any effect. She's just kept on crying. And I look at Dad, and he's standing back like this, quiet, stone-faced. And so I went over and I put my arm around him, and I walked him away from the family. And I said, what are you worried about? I said, have you ever been on a college campus before? No. I said, are you worried that you don't know what's going to happen? He said, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, are you worried that you won't be able to help your son? He said, yeah. I said, I tell you what, here's my card. Here's my phone number on the back of the card. Your son's going to call you in the next month or so. Something's going to come up. He's not going to like being with his roommate. The food's not going to be good. He's not going to be able to get his classes. He parked in the wrong place and got a ticket. He doesn't feel like he's ready for his midterm. It's going to be something. And he's going to want you to fix it, and you're not going to know what to do. I said, you tell him, I'll get back to you. You hang up the phone, and you call me. And I promise you, we'll find a way to help you help your son. And you can call him back and say, this is what you need to do. And he can say, wow, Dad, thanks, you really helped me. And I think he stood about 6 inches taller. He walked back to the family and he said, it's going to be okay, you guys. It's going to be fine. And I realized that what we're doing at Cal State Fullerton is not just providing an education to these students. We are doing that and in spades, believe me. It's not just creating the future for these students, but we're raising them up, and in so doing also raising up their families. And in raising up those families, we're raising up community, our community. Every one of those students that comes to Cal State Fullerton and graduates from Cal State Fullerton raises our community. And I said, okay, this is exactly what I've been looking for. This is the real thing. So that's why I think I have the best job in the world. It's the students and their families. That's why I'm here. The parents is why I'm here as much as for those students. The faculty who could teach anywhere. We have faculty from all over the country, from all over the world that come to teach at Cal State Fullerton because they believe in the mission. We are a teaching institution that does research as opposed to a research institution that happens to do some teaching on the side. We are dedicated to improving the lives of these kids through education. So I didn't come here for the financial gain, to be honest with you. I didn't need that. I didn't come here to fill my resume. No one's going to look at my resume anymore. I came here for the success of our students, for raising up families, for creating an uplifting community, increasing access for students, more students, persistence for these students, getting them to graduate, and creating graduates that are not just ready for that first job, and not even just ready for that second or third job, but they're ready to be strong, active, committed members of our community. They're ready to give back. So much is given to these kids, and they are kids. I got 40,000 kids. Even though they're adults, they feel like kids to me. But so much is given to them, and they need it, and they deserve it. But so much is given to them, and what we have to make sure that we inculcate in them is that they pay that forward. That they turn around and give it to the next generation, to their siblings, that they demonstrate that if they're the first in their family to go to college, that their brothers and sisters and cousins are going to go to college, that their aunts and uncles are going to go back to school, that mom and dad will go back to school. And that's a heavy burden. You can see our kids on campus. They carry a lot of backpacks, and I can see the first-gen kids that have mom and dad on their back as well, or brothers and sisters, and they're wondering how they're going to make it. And so we pay a lot of attention to that. The CSU, Cal State University, is, I think, the glue that holds the state of California together. With 185,000 students, 3.5 million alumni, we are at the CSU the stickiness that creates community for each other. People learn to live and love and work together on our campuses, and when they go off from college into communities, they pursue that. And just as the CSU is that for California, Cal State Fullerton is that for Orange County. It's for Fullerton, but it is for Orange County. Because let's think about that for a second. We are the only CSU in Orange County, which, if you stop to think, is a little crazy. There's 5 CSUs in LA County. There's 5 CSUs in the Bay Area. There's 2 CSUs in San Diego. And there's 3 CSUs in the Valley. And there's 1 in Orange County. So we're the biggest and the best, of course. But we have to make sure, because we're the only one, we are both responsible and empowered to make this difference, to create this opportunity for our students. And that's why I'm so excited to be at Cal State Fullerton. It's already a wonderful place, absolutely. It's a fantastic place, but I believe it's on the cusp of being even greater. And that's what we're going to move toward. People told me all the time when I got here that Cal State Fullerton is the best kept secret in Orange County. Well, best for sure. I don't want to be a secret anymore. We need to stand proud as Titans, as Fullertonians who support Cal State Fullerton, stand proud for who we are and what we do. Even some of our proudest alums, I think, have not come to terms or understand that we are no longer that sleepy, community-based 4-year university with 10,000 students. We've gone from a diamond in the rough to a crown jewel, as far as I'm concerned. We have 40,000 students, biggest university in the CSU. I had a alum call me and irate because the U.S. News and World Report rankings had come out, and he looked at those rankings, at those reports, and he couldn't find Cal State Fullerton. He said, I see Long Beach State, I see Northridge, I see Cal State LA, I see Dominguez Hills, I see San Bernardino, I see Stanislaus. Where are you? What are you guys doing over that place? And I got to smile, even though I was on the phone. I said, you know what? I think you need to turn the page. Because you are looking at the top-ranked regional universities. Cal State Fullerton is ranked as a national university. We're one of only 4 CSUs that are ranked nationally. We have a national reputation, a national scope in everything that we do. And that's something that we need to be proud of. So we're not a secret anymore. We're not a backup school, a second choice school. We're a first choice destination. We had over 75,000 applications to come to Cal State Fullerton last year, and this year we have over 81,000 applications to come to Cal State Fullerton. Most applications ever, and it just keeps getting bigger. Last year was a 12% increase over the year before. We admitted about 22,000 kids. That was a 6% increase, and then about 8,500 kids actually came to school. Incoming GPA, almost 3.7. So this is an institution that is strongly competitive nationally. And these numbers are even more impressive when you think about the fact that 60% of our students that are admitted are first in their family to go to college. More than 60% of our students come from underrepresented communities. About half of our students are Pell eligible students for financial aid, federal financial aid. And we should dispel another myth as well. We are no longer a commuter school. Our kids come to campus at about 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. They're looking for a parking space. And they stay all day. And they don't leave until 10 or 11 at night. The only thing they don't do is sleep there. And I see them sleeping there as well during the day sometimes. What's that?
We're laughing.
Yeah. And when they do go home, they come right back the next day. And we have so many of our kids that actually live within just a couple of miles of the campus. You all know this because on a Friday or Saturday night, where are they? They're in downtown Fullerton, exactly right. So they do this despite working multiple jobs, caring for their families. They do this because we present a vibrant, fulsome, community-based student life experience for them. They want to be here. They plan to be here. This is their campus, this is their home. And they are citizens of Fullerton for the time that they're here. They vote here, they are consumers here, they're part of our community, and that's a wonderful thing. So that's why we often say Titans reach higher, because we are always aspiring to get better. You know, there was a professor, I love this piece, there was a professor at Duke University who decided that he was going to do a study of grade inflation. That was his area of expertise. He was trying to figure out which were the universities that were the most rigorous academically. He said he noticed that there were universities very hard to get into, but once you got in, it wasn't that hard to get a good grade. You could, if you want to skate through or you just want to cruise through, you can. Other universities are much harder. So he was studying grade inflation, and he studied all the national universities across the country, and he ranked the top 25 universities in the nation for academic rigor. Your Cal State Fullerton, number 13 in the nation. Number 13. So only one UC on that list, and they were below us. Only one Ivy on that list, and they were below us. Stanford, USC, not even on the list. So we are a rigorous academic institution, as we should be, as we should be. And that's because we are trying to prepare our students for life. And I think despite being the hardest place, one of the hardest places to get an A, and despite the fact that we're doing this with basically $14 million less than we had before the Great Recession, because we still haven't come back with all those cuts, and we're working with 5,000 more students than we had before because we've grown. We're still doing amazing things. In the last 5 years, we've increased our 6-year graduation rate for students by 32%. We've increased our 4-year graduation rate for students, for first-time freshmen, by 48%. We've increased our 2-year graduation for transfer students by 52%. And we've eliminated the equity gap between underserved students and the general population for transfer students. There's no longer an equity gap. And we've reduced that equity gap from 12% to 7% for our first-time freshmen. So we're working hard to make sure that we actually provide value and a strong academic experience for our students. Today we're number 4 in the nation for granting BAs to students of color. Number 4 in the nation. We're number 1 in the CSU and number 2 in the state for granting BAs to women, which I'm very proud of. We're number 6 in the nation for lowest net cost for a national university. We're in the top 12% of Money Magazine's best colleges for your money. In May of this year, we're going to confer about 12,500 degrees. 12,500 new graduates going out into the Orange County community. I love to talk about our athletics. We have great athletics. We are a great baseball team with 4 national championships, you know that. But we've also got a great basketball team and a great women's basketball team, a great women's softball team that's doing amazing today, this week, or this season. Amazing. So we have amazing athletics. And athletics is the front porch for our community into Fullerton and Orange County. We get people to come in and see us through our athletics, and then hopefully they stay and they figure out what an amazing place Cal State Fullerton is. We also, you may not realize this, have our national reputation for the performing arts and the fine arts. You know, our university singers that we were talking about won the national competition last year. Our large jazz band, our small jazz band, and our Latin jazz band all won the competition last year. So it's an amazing place to come. I hope you will come, if you don't, and come see the performances. This weekend, the Magic Flute, the opera, Mozart's Magic Flute, is on. And we saw it last weekend, and we're going back this weekend. It is incredible. Now, I'm no opera aficionado, believe me. But I've been to a lot of operas, and I love going to opera, and I will tell you, it is every bit the opera that you will see at Santa Fe, or San Diego, or LA, and these are our students. Julie and I said to each other when we were leaving, it's hard to believe these kids are 20, 21, 22 years old, because it's just incredible. So come see what our kids are doing. It'll blow your mind. So this is our legacy. Cal State Fullerton is our legacy. It's our responsibility to step up, to step out, to see what we can do to make it better. What does that look like? What do I see that looking like going forward? Well, first of all, we need to reach out more and welcome more our business community in Orange County. Seek their personal and financial support. Seek their, not just their financial support, but also internships and mentorship. Seek their help with creating cutting-edge lab space on our campuses so that when our students leave our campus, they go to work in a place, they actually recognize it. Seek their cooperation and coordination in community service. Working with corporations to actually do community service would be an amazing thing, and we have a ready, willing cadre of students that are interested in community service, trying to make Orange County more inclusive and supportive and uplifting, working with our corporations to do that. I think we need to increase access as well. As I said, we're the only CSU in Orange County. And as part of our planning process, we're going to have to figure out a way, if we're going to keep being the only CSU in Orange County, to allow more students to come to school at Cal State Fullerton. Now, how do we do that? The answer is not going totally online. That's not, you've listened to me talk probably for way too long about the experience of being at a university. It is a fulsome, wholesome experience that you want to have. So you have to have those kids come to campus. But we can create hybrid programs where kids don't have to come to campus 3 or 4 times a week for a class. They can come once, or maybe every 10 days. And as long as those online learning programs are actually virtual programs where they're part of a classroom, of a cohort, and they have opportunities to engage and do group projects and work together, that can work. We're seeing it work at other places. We're seeing it work on campus for some of the projects that we're working on, and we're going to have to look at that. We need to work on workforce development. So reaching out to our community and saying, how are the students that we're graduating doing when they come to work for you? What skills do they have that you're really glad they have? And what skills don't they have, or would you like them to refine even more before they come to you? preparing our students not only for that first career or second career, but as I said, for the future. Preparing them to be our Titan alumni, building that community and family. I think when I started 15 months ago and I came to campus the first time, I went to the academic senate and I told them, you're probably wondering what you did wrong, because they sent the lawyer down to be the president. I was just kidding, of course, because nobody did anything wrong. But I say that because I know I'm not a traditional candidate. I'm not a traditional person to be a university president. But I feel that I've got the skills and abilities and the drive and the joy and the interest and the energy to do this. And I set out over the past 15 months to prove that to myself and hopefully to prove it to you as well. The last 15 months, Julie and I have just had a ball. Worked really hard, but had a great time. We've worked hard with the faculty and the staff, with our associated students and our unions, with the community, and with you. We've been out in the community. We've had so much fun at different Rotary clubs, at the Boys and Girls Club, at going to events and being part of the community. We feel so welcome and such a part of it. But mostly I've thought to engage students and make sure that they know that we care about them. And I think we're succeeding. We finished our 5-year strategic plan just before I got here, and we've launched our new 5-year strategic plan about 6 months ago. So we're in the beginning stages of implementing that new 5-year strategic plan. So on our website, I encourage you to take a look at it and see what we are going to be focusing over the next 5 years. We are instituting our first comprehensive philanthropic campaign, where we're out to raise $175 million, or maybe even a little bit more. I'm looking over at Greg, he laughs because I keep telling him we need to up that number. And so you're going to be hearing about that, about fundraising and friend-raising for Cal State Fullerton. We are in the midst of our WASC review. WASC is our accrediting agency, and we are in the midst of that process, which gives us an opportunity to look back from when they were here last time and see what they were constructively critical about and how have we fixed it, and try and guess what they're going to tell us we need to do this time. But it's going to help inform everything that we do. As I said, largest grad class. We're in the midst of recruiting 70 tenure track faculty positions. We want to bring up to, if we can get them up to 70 new tenure track faculty onto campus. We just came off of our highest fundraising year that we've ever had in every category. Infrastructure, we've remodeled the north wing of the library, and we're just about done with the south wing of the library, which has been closed for 5 years because of the earthquake 5 years ago. It's now been seismically retrofit, and it's set to open hopefully in the fall. We've opened Tuffy's Basic Needs Center, which is a center that our students can come to if they're food insecure or housing insecure, so they can get services. There's a full-time social worker there at all times. There's a clothing closet there. They can get sundries and toiletries there, and they can get connected to social services, which is really important because we do have students who are homeless or food insecure. We opened Club 57 this year, which is our faculty staff gathering place. You're all invited to come and be club members anytime you want to come. We completely remodeled our Veterans Center. When I got there, the Veterans Center, you could touch it on either side. That's how big it was. Now it's an amazing space for our veterans. These are men and women that have stood in harm's way for us, who have given their sweat and time for us. They are so brave and courageous, and we owe this to them. And now they've got a place on campus, which is really important. We've got a Center for Entrepreneurship down in our Irvine Center, which is an incubator for new businesses, which is going gangbusters. We redid our Student Health Center and Counseling Center this year, remodeled it. So we're on the move, we're doing things. We're in construction right now, redoing our promenade, going from Nutwood straight to the library. And we're going to have you're going to see it, I hope you're going to love it, a traditional gate into the university, like so many universities have. So you walk through the gate into a place of learning, into a center, a crucible of ideas of where things happen. We're really excited about that happening. We're creating space that is a gateway into the campus. We're really excited about that. We have nearly 300,000 alumni, as I said. 80% of them live within 50 miles of our campus. More than $3 billion of the earnings of our alumni are directly attributable to their degrees that they got from Cal State Fullerton, which creates about $5 billion of industry activity throughout the state. So we are an economic engine. Every dollar that the state gives us, we produce about $13.40 in economic investment in the California economy. So we're obviously the largest employer in Fullerton, but we're the 9th largest employer. No, that's changed. It's the 11th largest employer. We were 9th last year. 11th largest employer in Orange County. So we are a big part of not just Fullerton, but of Orange County as well. And we are the backbone of Orange County's workforce. I love hearing the saying that I hear when I talk to Orange County business, which is, "I will take a Titan anytime." And when I first started hearing that, I said, why do you say that? Why will you say, I'll take a Titan anytime? And they said, look, if your students graduate from Cal State Fullerton, they have persevered. Many of them, it was hard for them to get there in the first place. They come from underserved communities. They're first generation students. And so if they've come to Cal State Fullerton, to the 13th most rigorous university in the country academically, and they've graduated, we know they're serious. They are workforce ready. I hear this all the time. You have mentorship, you have internships, you send them out into the community to do work. They get their hands, arms, and dirty sometimes up to here with experience. It's already on their resume. They know what they're doing, and so I know that they have some experience. And they say they're culturally competent. They know what it's like to work cross-culturally. They know what it's like to work and to create an inclusive environment. Because if you look at Cal State Fullerton, that's who we are. We're almost 50% Hispanic now, 25% Asian Pacific Islander, and 25% everything else. What we are today, Orange County is going to be in 5 minutes. That's what those workforces look like out there, and that's what California is going to look like in a week. And they say, we need that. We need people to know how to work together, and you teach them how to do that. So we're very proud of that. In the end, I think this job is a lot about leadership, about collaboration, being engaged, working with people. It's about vision and envisioning what's going to happen. It's about daring and dreaming, and we've got a lot of dreaming to do because we want to move this institution forward even more. It's about motivating and moving for change. As I said, I feel like everything I've been doing with my life has led up to just this spot. I love this university. I love this community. We feel at home at Fullerton. We're very, very proud and glad to be here. I love the mission. And I love the fact that I get to stay and keep doing it. So what should you expect in the future going forward? Just more. And maybe a little bit more higher paced. I'm looking over at Danielle, my chief of staff, and she's laughing. She's like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do next? But we're going to make our mark. We're going to, in fundraising, in infrastructure, in general education, in collaboration, in leadership. We're going to be the leaders of the CSU in everything that we do. We'll be a little bit more audacious than we've been in the past. We'll reach higher a little bit more than we've done in the past. We're going to be even more transformative for our community, and we're going to be focused. And I promise you this also, we will be partners with this community. We are not known. I got some emails I got emails about 3 or 4 things when I first got here. The first was bring back football. Everybody wanted me to bring back football. I said that's not going to happen. One of them that I got was change the name, Cal State Orange County, because you're the only CSU in Orange County. we are never changing the name. We're very proud to be Cal State Fullerton. That's who we are, that's who we want to be, and we're very glad and proud to be here. So I probably went on way too long, but I'm willing to, happy to answer any questions or talk about anything you want. I should say right off the bat, I know that we've had our master planning process today on campus, and there's some people that might want to talk about that. I know there's been some articles in the paper about the Arboretum and the future of the Arboretum. I'm more than willing to talk about that as well. Talk about academic program, infrastructure, whatever you'd like to talk about.
We have about 30 minutes for questions. I do have a microphone. I'm hoping we won't have the feedback issues, but I'll help pass it around just so we can make sure everyone can hear. And I just saw this lady first.
Basically, address the Arboretum.
Sure.
Thanks.
So, when they announced that I had been made the president at Cal State Fullerton, I went to the Academic Senate, and I walked in and I said, I have only two things to say. I'm dissolving the Academic Senate, and I'm bulldozing the Arboretum. Because I just want to make sure that we understand that neither one of those things is ever going to happen. On the Academic Senate, I am a strong believer in shared governance, and I love going to the Academic Senate meetings. Diana, you probably think I'm crazy, but I actually do love going to them. They're fun. On the Arboretum, the Arboretum is a jewel. It is a gem, and it is something that we are very interested in working to preserve. Now I want to take a step back and let's talk about the Arboretum. The Arboretum sits on 25, 26 acres of land that was effectively leased for free by the trustees to create an Arboretum about 30 years ago. When they did that, there were maybe 15,000 kids at Cal State Fullerton. And it was land that nobody ever thought we would need or want. No one ever in their wildest dreams imagined we'd have 40,000 students, right? But it's CSU land, and it was actually created for the purpose, for academic purposes. It was given to Cal State Fullerton for academic purposes. A joint powers authority was set up between a redevelopment agency, but eventually the city of Fullerton and Cal State Fullerton to run the Arboretum for a period of time. That joint powers authority is expiring December 2020. And the city of Fullerton has let us know that they are not interested in renewing that. And they have been providing about $250,000 a year to help run the Arboretum, and they are no longer going to provide that money to us. So we've looked at that, and what we've said is, what can we do to make sure that we preserve the Arboretum, do only things that are best for the Arboretum, but at the same time do things that are best for Cal State Fullerton and the purpose of that land. We are spending, without ever even thinking about the value of the land, we don't charge anything for that, about $750,000 to $1 million a year to help run the Arboretum. That money is coming out of our general fund. Insurance, personnel, utilities, etc. And we've been doing that the whole time. If you want to see how short our budget is, our budget is very tight. So what we have to be able to do as good stewards of our finances, answering to the Board of Trustees and to the public who expects us to use those funds for educational purposes, is increase the way in which the Arboretum is important as an academic enterprise to Cal State Fullerton, while not damaging it in any way for the purposes it also serves as an amazing place for botanical place and also a resource to our community. How are we going to do that? Well, we want to increase the flow, if you will, of students, faculty, and staff to the Arboretum. We want it's green space, and we want to use it. We want it to be part, and we want to be proud of the Cal State Fullerton Arboretum. That's what it's going to be. And we want people to know that, and we want our students to use it. We want to increase the research that is done. Biology, chemistry, engineering, in the arts, humanities, business, whatever it might be. We want it to be a crucible for a laboratory because then we can demonstrate the academic purpose of the Arboretum for the funds that we are using to help support it. So that's what we will be, our touchstone or our governor will be whatever we do at the Arboretum, we want to do it with the standard that it is good for the Arboretum and it's good for Cal State Fullerton. Because if it's good for the Arboretum and good for Cal State Fullerton, it'll be good for the community as well. So I've heard that we're planning to put dormitories on the Arboretum. We have no plans to put dormitories on the Arboretum. I've heard that we're planning to pave it over or build a parking structure on the Arboretum. We have no plans to put a parking structure on the Arboretum. Now, the Arboretum has a master plan. And that Arboretum master plan plans for some uses on the Arboretum. They have a greenhouse, potentially, they'd like to have on the Arboretum. We have a greenhouse on campus. Now, wouldn't it be something if we moved our greenhouse from campus to the Arboretum, where it belongs, and had students come over and work at the Arboretum in the greenhouse there, and had our biology program working in that greenhouse over there. The Arboretum would like to improve, maybe have some kind of conference center or more meeting space for programs. Well, we're in need of meeting space as well in the university, and if we can build something like that at the Arboretum without that meets the Arboretum's needs, we can share in the use of that. That'd be a perfect thing to do. So we will look at things only in that light. That's our plan for the Arboretum. I expect and plan that we will all continue to use the Arboretum and be very proud of it. And I actually will be really proud to start calling it the Cal State Fullerton Arboretum. That's what I hope to be able to do. That's what I want to be able to do. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, thanks.
So the campus is adjacent to an area that was previously defined to have, I'm forgetting the name of it, the university,
College.
It's College Town, there
College
you go.
Town?
Yeah. So how do you see those, there's probably still some idea for that. How do you see that fitting in with the master plan that Cal State Fullerton's working on now?
So the College Town concept plan was something that came and went before I got here. I've seen what it would look like, and from a perspective of the university, it would be a wonderful thing to be able to join College Park, which is across the street from the rest of the university, with the rest of the university. Under the College Town concept, Hope International was also part of that. But it has to be something that the community embraces and is behind as well. It is not anything that I would be interested in doing that wasn't something that the community thought would be beneficial. I will tell you for sure, absolutely, we have to find a solution for our students getting from the university to College Park across Nutwood. 10,000 students a day go back and forth on in the crosswalk between Nutwood and College, between our campus and College Park. And I have almost got run over 100 times myself, and it is just a matter of time before some faculty member, staff member, student, or just community member doing that gets run over. And if people ask what keeps you up at night, that's one of the things that keeps me up at night. So we have to find a solution to that. College Town would be a huge solution to that, but that's dreamy and audacious, and I will do that, and we'll talk about that. And if the city council members that I've talked to have said they'd like to re-talk about that again and see if there's something that we would want to do, I'm happy to do that. But in the meantime, we need to build a bridge across to make sure that students, faculty, and staff can get back and forth safely. And so that's something that I'd like to see in the short term to help with that.
Well, number one, I really enjoyed your rap.
Yeah, that was good.
And I hope everybody gets a chance to see it, because reaching higher and just what you were doing is just absolutely fantastic. What you're doing. I'm happy that you mentioned a hybrid education where you're on campus, off campus, because that wasn't an approach that was taken in the master plan this morning as I saw it.
Okay.
I don't see that as part of the master plan, and it should be, because that changes how the infrastructure and what you need to provide students. And one other thing, we can increase parking by 20% without doing one more thing, by having the university run 6 days a week. It's possible. And my grandson goes to university in New York, and he goes to school on Sunday mornings.
Yep.
And I know that it's not something people want to do, but students or instructors, professors, but that would give you 20% more of everything.
We don't even have to worry about Sundays. We have 40,000 students. Those 40,000 students basically come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A good chunk of them come Monday. A much smaller chunk of them come Friday. And Friday afternoon, I could go bowling there and not hit anybody. So I get that, and I agree. And we do have Saturday and Sunday as well, where we could use that. And so we have capacity for more students. And I've told this to the Chancellor's office, that you will see in our master plan that there is a plan for growing the number of students we have. Not exponentially, 1% a year, something like that, to try and provide the opportunity for all those students that we are not allowing to come to campus because we don't have room for them. What we really don't have is funding for them, because the state funds us for a certain number of students. And the state needs to increase that funding for us. We get about 50% of our funding from the state and 50% of our funding from tuition. And so if we don't get that, we are 103% over enroll, 3% over enroll. We have 103% of what the state pays for. So for that 3%, we're paying for them without any state help. So we need the state to give us more funding so that we can have more students. And then we are going to need to talk about how can we increase the foot traffic and the student traffic on a Friday, or should we have Saturday classes? But it'll come, it'll have to. I agree with you. As for hybrids, one of the things that we're doing, which I think is really exciting, is we're completely revamping our classrooms. You can go into a number of our classrooms now, and for lack of a better term, I'll call them smart classrooms, right? So when you walk into these classrooms, boy, I'm a dinosaur. They had whiteboards or chalkboards when I was in college, right? But now, not only do they have amazing display up front, they have microphones all over the ceiling. They have cameras everywhere so that students can be part of those classes remotely. So you actually don't have to come to class. You could be sitting on your computer and you're part of class. And the professor can actually call on you on your computer, and you can ask a question of the class, and you can have a discussion. Even if you divide the class up into groups, you can be part of one of the groups. So we are looking at ways to make hybrid classes like that more accessible and increase access. It's something we're going to have to do if we're going to serve all the kids in Orange County.
Yes. I think you can probably hear me. One of the things that I have been really concerned about is the issue of homelessness. And we know, maybe not everybody knows, but there's 62,000 homeless students across this country. 62,000, one of the wealthiest nations in the world. And we have 62,000 students that are living in their cars because they don't have money for tuition and rent.
Yep.
And I've been thinking about, what can I do? Okay, so one of the things that I did is I had a nephew that he was ready to be homeless. And so I took him in, right? But I keep thinking, what can we do as a fundraiser to help alleviate some of this pain. I know some of the community colleges now across the state are setting up part of their parking lots so that at night these students can park there and not be alone, which, by the way, if you're a woman living in your car, this is not a safe thing to do.
Right.
But if you want an education and it's the only thing you can do, it's what you do. And so this has been a concern for me. I mean, I'm at the point where I literally keep bags of blankets and socks and food in my car, so when I see a homeless person, I stop and give it to them. But we've got to do something more. And I just keep thinking, let's do a fundraiser. Let the community, let us come together and do a fundraiser and try and raise money to alleviate some of that. By the way, I'm Jeanette Reese.
Yeah.
I know you know.
I think we know.
So
I guess so.
it's a very important issue and a very complicated one. I want to talk about it for just a minute because I think it's really important. First off, you're absolutely right that we have food insecure and home insecure students. What does that mean? That means that some of our kids are homeless. They're living in their cars. Some of them, it means that they are not living in their cars, but they're couch surfing. They're living at friends' house, moving from place to place. And some of them, it means they have a place, but they don't know how they're going to keep paying for it. They feel insecure about their housing situation. So it's varying degrees. We also have food insecure kids. Some of them, they're just hungry. They need food. Others, that means that they aren't eating as often as they like, and some, it means they're not eating as healthy as they like. So again, it's degrees. I say that because there was a study done at Long Beach State that says that 1 in 5 kids are food insecure and 1 in 10 kids are housing insecure. But it uses that full definition of insecurity. So I'm not trying to minimize the problem at all, but I want to recognize the problem we have. That's the first issue. The second issue is we have resources already that are ready for our students if we can just connect them with those resources. These students don't come forward. It is one of the issues that we are working hard on, but it is very frustrating. So I'll give you some, we have something, we talk about Tuffy's basic needs. We also have Titan Bites, where if a student is hungry, they can come to Student Affairs. We will load their Titan card, which is their student card, with dollars so they can go into the gastronome, into our food service, and eat. And we'll do it for any kid that comes forward and says they're hungry. But we got to get them to come forward. The kids don't want to come forward. They're ashamed. They don't want to tell. We have kids. I can't tell you the number of times that I've, over the past 15 months, I've got to know a student, and I've known them for 3 or 4 months before they tell me that they're sleeping in their car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? And then I'll tell them, we can get you a place. We have emergency rooms in our dorms that we keep open only for that purpose. And some of them will say, I don't want to do that. I want to live in my car. And they're adults, I can't stop them. So it's a much more complex problem. And then on top of that, we don't get funded at all by the state to feed and house our kids. Now, how are you supposed to learn if you don't have a place to live and you don't have food in your belly? I totally get it. But at the same time, I could take my entire budget and feed all the kids and house them and not have any money to educate them. So I have to be careful of that. So what do we do? First of all, we need to be a safety net for those kids who on emergency or interim basis, they need help. They need food, they need a place to stay. So we put our kids in the dorms. If there's no rooms in the dorms, we have hotels where they can stay, and we feed them. And we connect them with the Orange County Food Bank, with the local food bank in Fullerton as well, and we hook them up with social services. There's a reason why we have a social worker in Tuffy's Basic Needs, someone who knows how to help them do the paperwork and get connected. So our biggest task is actually finding those kids and getting them to come. The second thing that we have to do, and that's what I have to do, is stand up and say to the state of California, we got a problem. And it's not you can do one of two things, state. You can give me some money to deal with this, or you can fund this in the budget somewhere else, but there are kids that need to eat, and there are kids that need a place to stay. And this is a state problem. It's a national problem. It's not just, by the way, it's not just for our college students. Guys, we got kids in elementary school and junior high school who are homeless and are hungry. And it breaks my heart. How can we provide education to our post-secondary education to our kids at the same time when there are kids that don't have enough to eat that are 5, 6, 7 years old? So it's a problem that we have to recognize. And we can be a clarion call. We can stand up with our bully pulpit and say, this isn't right, we got to do something. And then we have to organize together as a community as well. So Orange County Food Bank, amazing place. You know, we took a group of students there on MLK Day, right? Yeah. And packaged meals for senior citizens. And Orange County Food Bank says you can bring their group of students back anytime and package meals for students, and we will have them delivered, and you can hand them out anytime you want. So there are resources to do this. We have to organize around them, and we have to convince our students that there's no shame or embarrassment in coming forward and saying, I need help.
We have time for about one more question.
I'm just curious, as we're on the subject of student services, if you feel that there's adequate funding for mental health services on campus?
It's another great question. And the answer is no. There's not adequate funding for mental health services. We have an amazing counseling program. Our CAPS program is an amazing program. We have a large number of full-time counselors, psychiatrists, doctors in our health center, and they see students all the time. But we have waits for kids, and sometimes these kids are in crisis and they can't wait. And so it is something that we have to pay attention to, and it's almost the same story as the food insecurity, but in some ways it's more serious because these kids suffer depression. Inevitably across the system we have suicides every year because kids didn't get the counseling that they need. We're in the business of education. We're not providing food, housing, health care, and mental health counseling. But we can't ignore it either. So we are talking to the state legislature right now about increasing the funding for mental health care, mental health services. The number of the propositions going is 63.
Mental Health Services Act.
Yeah.
Which gives money to the county.
Yes.
And students are an underrepresented population.
Yes.
We have to work with the county to get all of our colleges.
Exactly right.
Because Gen Z, which is the generation that's coming up, has mental health problems that are going to blow us away.
There's money.
Right,
we just need to get them to give it to us, and we've been talking to the state legislature about that. But it is something of which we are acutely aware.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take a couple more if people want to stay.
I just wanted to know, I've been watching the master plan, and it seems like it's just on the footprint where Cal State Fullerton is, and it's not looking outside the box to say, what about the satellite campuses? What about, buying University Village, which is already dorms, or Nutwood Apartments, which is already dorms? What about relocating Hope University and taking over that? What about looking at the retail space that's dying at the Brand Mall, where there's 2 buildings of Macy's going out? What about low-income housing? Because, the median price of a 2-bedroom apartment everywhere in Orange County is more than my mortgage.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy in 1970.
Yeah.
I bought in 2005.
Yeah.
And my students are paying more than my mortgage on a house that sells for $800,000.
Right.
It's criminal to think that we could expand. I mean, we could do senior housing with low-income senior housing in one Macy's and student housing in another, and put the gerontology center there. There's so many outside the box suggestions, and so I just think it's so limited to look at the master plan of only the footprint that you already have. And I was born and raised in Sherlock, and Stanislaus is just nothing but land.
They got lots
and
of
just
land.
a few buildings, and I just think, sort of like the difference between Disneyland and Disney World, where Disneyland was concrete and there wasn't a lot of place to grow. We've got to think outside the box for how do you get outside of what is Cal State Fullerton, because we're serving 3.2 million in Orange County. That's the only Cal State, and I know that you are really proud of the fact that 3.7 is the incoming. That scares me.
Oh, yeah.
What about our kids that are getting a 3.0?
Right? They need a place
Where
to go.
are they going to go?
Right.
They're locked out of the system, and we now have a system that says, it's LinkedIn and it's Monster and it's a job that you have to type in things. And so I saw one thing from Forbes that said 62% of jobs that do not currently need a college degree will require a college degree because it's just a paper screening. Because if I don't require a college degree, I'm going to get 1,000 applications. But if I require a college degree for a job that doesn't really need it, then I can cut it down to 100, which is a manageable number to look through. We are leaving so many kids behind.
So there's a lot in that.
I know.
Let me see if I can answer a little.
I just met you.
Yeah.
And I got to go back to Fullerton College, so there you go. You get to unpack it.
Let me see if I can answer a little bit of it.
And I really don't need an answer to everything, but
No,
I
no,
just
it's
want
okay.
to know if you're aware of.
So
1,000
you
things.
just answered one great answer, which is, by the way, we have Fullerton College, which is an amazing thing. Half of the kids that come to us every year are community college transfers. We take more community college transfers at Cal State Fullerton than any other Cal State in the state, and we're proud of that. And we love our relationships with Fullerton College, with Santa Ana College, with Golden West, with all our feeder
But when you
colleges.
reject our students, they don't know where to go.
Well, I'm not saying that's a
Yeah,
solution.
no.
but
And I don't
that-
want you to take all of them.
but there is a pathway for those
Right.
kids that don't start with us. That doesn't mean we don't need to increase our access for the students that don't make it. When we engage in the master planning process, we engage it with the facilities that we have. We look at the footprint that we have and we say, how can we best utilize that footprint? That doesn't mean that we aren't interested and willing to think outside the box about other possibilities if they come along. Hope International is a wonderful partner in our community. And as long as they're there, I want them to be there, and we will be great neighbors with them. And if they ever decide that they're interested in relocating and going somewhere else, I will be standing right in front of that door saying,
Right.
hello, I promise, right? The idea of other parts of it, other facilities away from campus is an idea we will have to look at. That's what our Irvine Center is about. But one of the things that we talked about for a lot of that I talked about, because I talked a lot, is the experience of being on a campus and how that is a rich and robust part of being a university student. You learn as much doing that. Otherwise, we'd all just do it online, right? And so if we open pods in other places, it's much harder for those students to get that experience. I would love, we are landlocked, and if there is land that comes available around our campus, please know we'll be thinking outside the box and we'll be going after it. So we are looking at those things and thinking about them all the time. Buying Nutwood apartments probably wouldn't help us much because most of our kids live in Nutwood apartments already. So what that would mean is we would just buy a place where we wouldn't have increased the capacity for students. So we have to build some student housing. But one of the things that the consultants told us with the master plan, we went into the master planning process quite honestly saying, oh, we're landlocked and this is terrible and there's no place to build anything. And they said, wait a minute, that's not right. Look on your campus. You have a whole lot of buildings that are 1-story, 2-story, or that have been around for 50 years, 60 years. So let's look at imagining how you would go up. because you're an urban university, and that's part of what you need to do. Let's think about mixed use. Let's think about P3s, public-private partnerships. So we are looking at those things all the time.
Thank you.
Yep. Not to minimize anything you said.
No.
I think that, did you still want one more? And then this is the last one.
Okay.
Just-
It was kind of a little bit of that. Their families. My name is Michelle. Sorry, my daughter is a proud Titan.
Yes, she is. Well, we're proud of her.
Thank you. Sorry. This Cal State Fullerton is my daughter's dreams. My daughter took 8 years before she could transfer from Long Beach City College to Cal State Fullerton. She also applied at Long Beach, was accepted, and Cal State Dominguez was accepted, but this was the dream school. That's fantastic, except she's a person with autism who doesn't drive. So the first semester, it's 100 miles. Back towards Downey, to here, and back, go to work, pick her up. That's fine. Finally, I found a place. Well, it's a little back house. It's only 1 bedroom. That's fine. I can do it. But when you come from a 2-bedroom with 4 little closets to a 1-bedroom with 1 closet, and I'm still doing the 100 miles a day commute, and because I can't afford anything else, I'm not about to tell my daughter, sorry, you're gonna go to the closer school, Long Beach, because it's more convenient. This is her dream school. But I took 8 months before I found this little box. And I'm scared because 2% goes up this January, come January for the lease. And I'm like, how are we gonna do this? And my daughter worked so hard with so many other students. And I feel for everybody, because there's so many homeless people. I'm right there, and I worked 2 jobs, and while she was there, I was working 3 jobs, and that's fine. That's fine, but I need to be feeling okay that if I die in 3 weeks, the tragic, what's gonna happen to her? So housing is concerning to me, low income, not just for individual students, but maybe perhaps for students who can't live independently yet, because we have to have a growth mindset. And I strongly believe in that. So I'm just curious about housing as well, for perhaps families, not just individuals.
Well, housing is an issue for us, not just
Yeah, for everybody.
not just for our students, but
Everybody,
for our faculty and staff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of faculty who say they're going to take a job with us, come out, and they don't believe us when we tell them how much things cost out here. And they come out after they've already accepted the job, and they start looking at the housing market. You were serious. I can't do this. And they go back. And we lose them because of that. Now, we have to look at innovative ways to deal with that. We've got some faculty housing. We don't have nearly enough. And we're constantly on the prowl looking for that. But this is an issue that, again, I don't mean to keep passing the buck, but this is a community issue. This is a state issue. Housing and low-income housing, affordable housing is an issue for the entire state and the entire nation. We can be a part of that solution. We can be a convener, for example. So last year when all the controversy for the homeless people down at the riverbed was going on, Cal State Fullerton convened a conclave on what to do about it. We can't fund those solutions, but we have brain resources. We have resources for convening and talking, and we brought all the people. We brought the United Way and contractors and nonprofits and the cities together to have a conversation about that. We can do that more. We need to lead more with that, and we will.
Thank you. And by the way, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
You're always
By the way, we love your baby girl.
Yeah, we do.
She calls it First Lady.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Well, thank you guys so very, very much for your patience, and I hope I didn't bore you to death. And come to campus. Oh, one thing. If you're actually proud of Cal State Fullerton, you can put these on your car. I have them. Come on, come get them. Put them on your car.